truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live. It is 8:45 East Coast time. That would be 5:45 in the Pacific. Sorry I didn't go live earlier today, as Jen and I have been telling you about, and we told our members last night during our members only call. We are kind of in the crunch time for a major story we're working on. So I was working on that most of the day today with Jen. But we wanted to come live tonight, obviously, because you have, I don't even know if I would call these actual elections, because it's so absurd that the state of Florida, Illinois, and Arizona are even having elections today. Arguably, it is, call it what you want. I say criminal negligence in the least, by these governors, as well as the Democratic Party, DNC, Tom Perez, Joe Biden's campaign, to urge people to go out and vote today, which we're going to get into, and then some. As of right now, Florida has been called for Joe Biden. We do not know what the turnout is. It is 100% going to be a lot lower than 2016. So we don't really know the turnout, but Florida, Biden won in a landslide, which is not particularly surprising. Most expected Florida to go to Biden, obviously senior citizens, an older state, and generally a more conservative state. During the general election has been a swing state in the recent years, but went to Trump, obviously, 2016, went to Governor Ron DeSantis in 18. Illinois was called for Joe Biden. It only has, let me give you the image, only has 7% of the precincts reporting right now. Biden is currently leading 60 to 34%. So significant lead, but that's with only 7% of the precincts reporting. I would expect that lead to narrow considerably. I think it would be closer in Illinois by far than it is in Florida. Again, no idea what the turnout is. We should expect all of these elections, which to me are illegitimate. To me, they're illegitimate if Biden wins. They would have been illegitimate if Bernie won, to be honest with you. I don't really know how you could have legitimate, free and fair elections besides the usual rigging that we see when there's a pandemic going on around the world and the United States. It is absurd, it is dangerous, it is deadly, and we're going to get into all of it. And the Arizona numbers, Arizona closes, the polls close at 9 o'clock Eastern time, so 15 minutes from now. Pretty sizable Latino population there, so we'll see what happens in Arizona. Remember, I know a lot of people are down. It is a super chat, so even if you're feeling a little pity, give us your love in the super chat. And we're currently standing at 1,859 Status Coup members. I'm going to keep it real for you. Obviously, things are not looking good for Bernie. We will get into some of the suspect things we are seeing around at different polling places. But things are not looking good for Bernie. in terms of winning the nomination. So now it really comes down to, where does the Bernie movement go from here? Where does the progressive movement go from here? I know a lot of people feel robbed again, and I can't say I blame you. And where does independent journalism go from here? We're not going to stop here at Status Coup. We need you to still cover these important stories. So hopefully, as down as some people are, keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join, for as low as a cup of coffee. And I also want to encourage people, and we started to see some of this today, thanks for the graphic, Colin. We'd like you guys to send in coronavirus stories. I will not be traveling for the time being, neither will Jen. You know, we're not superheroes, so we don't want to get infected by the coronavirus. But we will be doing interviews with people that are being affected. So if you, your family members, your friends, anybody is being affected, I already spoke with someone today that wants to speak with us, but they think they have it, and they're sleeping and have a fever. So they told me that, you know, when they wake up, if they're feeling a little better, they would do a Skype interview with us. I'm getting messages from people saying they went to the emergency room, there were no tests. They went to the emergency rooms, it's not clear how much they would have to pay. It's just a disaster. So we want to, as best as we can, in a creative way, it will probably be through Skype, interview as many people as we can and show the stories that will not be featured on CNN, MSNBC, in the New York Times. So feel free, if you're affected, if your family's affected, not just in terms of, are you sick? In terms of, are you being forced to go to work? I'm going to have a story about that in a little bit. Are you getting laid off if you're a freelance worker? Are you somebody who generally drives Uber to pay the rent? And now you can't drive Uber. We want those stories that nobody would think of. We want to be able to tell them. So keep signing up. info@statuscoup.com. Send us your story. Thank you, Andy P. $10. I'm going to need a lot more Status Coup live streams with the current shelter-in-place orders. We are here to provide it to you, Andy P. Thanks for the super chat. Xavier, $5. Social Dem Socialist, Socialist DSA. I don't see much difference. Seen the DSA convention clip. It's embarrassing. Also, Biden is a joke. Thank you. All right, 200 people watching. 111 of you have pressed that like button. Keep signing up. Keep pressing the like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. I know a lot of you are down. Press that like button so we can get this to more people. The more people that press the thumbs up button under the live stream, the more people that will see this live stream. So before we get to Tom Perez, Joe Biden, and all of these, I mean, what do you call this other than sociopaths? Knowingly sending out people to put themselves at risk to vote. I want to show you just some of the things going on here. Let's take a look. This is in Illinois at a polling place today. Hold on.
Marshall Branch for voting. There are senior citizens sitting in there. They then Marshall Branch for voting. There are senior citizens sitting in there. They've been there 2 to 3 hours waiting. There are too many people smashed together in there. It's too close in there. They're talking about all of this. What's wrong? It's taking too long. And I mean, I've been standing out here an hour myself. Too many people in there. None of the senior citizens are being waited on. They're just sitting there and waiting. And a lot of people are leaving. They're not voting because they're having to wait so long. So they're leaving this poll. What is the matter? Supposed to be that maybe 30-minute wait, 2 to 3 hours wait. Something is wrong. Somebody needs to do something.
You literally have in Illinois, you got senior citizens, the most at risk here, going out to vote because Tom Perez had no moral leadership, Joe Biden urging people to vote. Simone Sanders, Joe Biden's senior advisor, goes on national television. CDC says it's safe. No, they didn't. That's a lie. You have senior citizens going out to vote, cramped up with each other, not social distancing. What do they say? 6 feet? Waiting for hours? You're not talking about waiting for 10 minutes. You're talking about waiting for hours in a pack of people. Who the hell knows where those people have been? Who the hell knows how many of those people that were in that polling pace have the coronavirus and don't have any symptoms yet? It is truly unconscionable. And I'm no doctor, but you wait. Give it a week. See if you see a major increase in cases of the coronavirus in the state of Florida, in the state of Arizona, and in the state of Illinois. You think these states are just magically shielded? The power of democracy will shield them because Tom Perez said so? So from older people standing in line when waiting for hours, as that woman just said, here's another story out of Illinois.
Election judge in the city of Chicago, and I've received absolutely zero communication. I'm supposed to be an election judge tomorrow in the city of Chicago, and I've received absolutely zero communication about any sort of precautions that they are taking for COVID-19. Not a single word, not an email, not a letter, not a call. My friend had her training after the labeling of it as a pandemic on Wednesday. She had her training on Friday. The person who was training her had to bring their own hand sanitizer, and they had hand sanitizer before and after touching the machines, but my friend asked, will there be hand sanitizer and will this be standard procedure on the day of elections? And she said no. They were not taught, and I was not taught, to wipe down machines before and after use. We were not told whether we will be given hand sanitizer, whether we will be given wipes, nothing. I just called the Board of Elections, talked to someone. She said, there will be hand sanitizer, there will be wipes, there will be no gloves, there will be no masks. And I said, why wasn't anyone notified about even the hand sanitizer or the wipes? Are we teaching anyone, are we telling anyone that they have to do this? She said they, quote unquote, didn't have time to send out a mass communication. They did not have time to email. And they said they're trying to call some people now to let them know. But people aren't being taught to do anything differently. Election judges are dropping out left and right, not just elderly. Friends of mine who are in their 20s are dropping out. I just called the governor's office. Well, first, the governor's Chicago office is nothing but a busy signal. I had to call Springfield, talk to someone there. I literally spoke, they listened to me. And then they said, thank you for your concerns. I'll be sure to pass it on. Goodbye. This is an absolute mess. I'm not one who's usually scared. I've been fine, but I'm scared to work as an election judge where there has been no precautions being let known, because even if they have hand sanitizer and wipes, that doesn't help if they don't teach people what they need to do and when. Plus,
and the truth is, and remember folks, we got 240 people watching right now, 173 of you. 173 of you have pressed that like button. I know it's late. I think we're up against some other competition here that are live, but we're going to keep going anyway. So keep pressing that like button right under the live stream. The thumbs up button so we can get the audience up. That fine young woman, like so many others, you see, she said, I feel fine. I don't have a number. There's a whole lot of people in America and around the world that have COVID-19, coronavirus, without any symptoms. You could be asymptomatic for days. You could honestly have it and really not have major symptoms. You could have a mild cough. You could have runny nose. You could have, the harsher symptoms are shortness of breath, fever, obviously. But COVID does not affect every single person the same way. So that woman, like so many others, might be going there, feeling fine, having contracted the virus, and passing it off to somebody else without even knowing it. This is not the type of thing that's intentional transmission. Obviously, people don't know they have it, don't know they're passing it off. Thank you, the Smith Elvis, €5 in the super chat. Here in Ireland, we are in virtual lockdown. The virus will and is killing people. What Perez and the DNC did was immoral and absolutely criminal. And by the way, I want to point out something, just to be fair. Bernie did not explicitly come out and tell his voters to stay home. I think he was in a lose-lose position, to tell you the truth. And just to give you an update, if you're coming late, the current count, again, I don't consider these, reputable elections because of everything going on. But with 10% of the vote in Illinois, Biden is up right now by 20 points. That has gone down for Biden and up for Bernie. So I expect Bernie to keep closing the gap. They declared Biden the winner, but I would expect Biden is not going to win Illinois by the margin that he won Florida. Florida, with 87% of the vote, Biden is crushing him. So this was kind of expected in Florida. Once we have the final numbers, I would not expect. I think you might see 40 to 50 to 60% reduction in turnout compared to 2016, because most people aren't willing to risk their lives to stand in a line for 3 hours. I'm not. So you literally have here, so I showed you that one. Here's something, let me find it. In a Chicago polling place, it's just unbelievable. Not sure if this is allowed. At my voting station in Chicago, they had Ricky Hendon's voting preferences at every station for people to use as a guide. This seems very suggestive. Could you please forward this to someone? Let me zoom in as best as I can. They have, for voters to see, State Senator Ricky Hendon's 2020 Democratic sample ballot. And what do you know? Joe Biden is his sample choice. Danny Davis, a congressman who is wildly corrupt. Anthony Clark is running against him down there in Chicago. Sample choice. Biden delegate is a sample choice. This is illegal. What's in front of you right now is illegal. You cannot electioneer in a polling place. This is electioneering. Let me say it again. Illegal. It's not suggestive, it's illegal. But this is the kind of stuff going on around the country today. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. So, as thank you, proud Tulsol, $5. JD is brazenly bashing Bernie right now for telling people to vote. At least we could always count on JD to never call out Her Highness Tulsi. JD, Justice Democrats, is bashing Bernie right now for telling people to vote. You'll have to send that to me. I didn't see that. We're going to get to... Oh, Jimmy Dore? Okay. I thought you meant Justice Democrats. Well, yeah. I'll let Jimmy say what he wants to say. I don't agree with that. So, what's amazing here, just if you've been living under a rock, let me give you the timeline of events here of what has happened in the last 48 hours. And as a reminder, if you're coming to this late, we at Status Coup are not closing down shop because of coronavirus. We might not be traveling, because obviously we want to protect ourselves. We're not superhumans, so Jen and I do not want to get sick. But we do want to cover this as best as we can. So if you, your family, your friends are affected by the coronavirus, and obviously everyone's affected, but I mean directly affected. If you're sick, if your family members are sick, if your friends are sick, we want to speak to you. We also want to tell the economic pain. And let me give you an example of the type of stories we're looking at. And this is not high tech, because I want to protect this person's identity who sent this to me today, because they don't want to lose their job. But I got this message earlier today. Let me make this bigger. I got this message earlier today from a viewer. Hopefully you could read it. Hi, Jordan. Please keep my name and identity anonymous, but you could share my story. Let me move it. I am a young medical insurance company worker in Los Angeles County. I work middle management. My company is forcing us to work despite instructions from the California governor and the Los Angeles mayor. We have been told we cannot do our job from home. Also, that violations with work compliance prevent us. They are violating and putting us all in danger for capitalistic profit. The staff of predominantly women, concerns like children, daycare, immunodeficiency, and fear were disregarded. We were given a catch-22 verbal, do you want to work or no ultimatum in a large group setting where pressure was a huge factor. We got nothing in writing, and our staff floor has way more than the recommended 10 people max. People are talking about being out of work, which is horrible, but the silent majority of us are being forced to work in small crowds for non-essential work. Jordan, these companies are evil, and their middle management department heads are making HR violation decisions. It's actually tricky what they are doing. They are having these supervisors make the threats from upper management, but upper management is acting like they have no part in this. The resent for the middle class worker who, because we make what they say verbatim as, quote, good money, is real in these private corporate jobs. Basically, because we get paid what they consider decent wages, we should sacrifice our lives, our families, and communities. I have family with an immunodeficiency disease, which they know about, and yet I have to come in every day regardless. People think they know what is happening in these work streets, but trust Jordan, the corporate intimidation, silencing, disregard for life, and HR violations are real. Please tell my story, but keep me anonymous. And I got the name of the company, but this person was fearful for their job, so I'm not going to name the company. Can you imagine how many more stories like this are going on around the country right now? Can you imagine? People are being forced to work. And by the way, I'm not going to say who, but somebody close to me has to go in to their office because some companies, what their job is, there's proprietary information in the office, meaning they won't let you leave the office with certain things. And certain jobs you can't do from home. The quote unquote proprietary information is in the office. So it's just unbelievable that for what that person who sent me that story is talking about for non-essential work. A lot of people take public transit to work. Even if you're driving to work, right? You got to get out of the car and go in your office. You're around other people. Those other people might not all drive to work. They might take the train to work. They might take the bus to work. It's insane. And unlike what Joe Biden lied about on the debate stage, the reason Italy is so far bad right now, is so in dire straits, is not because they have a Medicare for all system. It's because they didn't put the country on lockdown early enough. Just like we haven't put our country on lockdown early enough. No, my friend doesn't work at Northrop Grumman, but thank you. So you have capitalist pigs who don't want to lose profit forcing their workers to work right now and putting their lives in dangers. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, and keep the super chats coming. We really appreciate it. As a reminder, Status Coup could only grow as far as you take us. Keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. Jen just sent me something. Sanders' attacks on Biden over Social Security had little effect in Florida. 6 in 10 voters trusted Biden over Sanders on that issue. That's not surprising to me. You have a lot of older voters in Florida. And what are the older voters watching? CNN and MSNBC. What are they reading? The New York Times and the Washington Post. You think CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC, you think they've been drilling there on Joe Biden's record on Social Security cuts? For God's sakes, Joe Biden just literally lied on national television, say he never stood on the Senate floor calling for cuts in Social Security. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, the journalists moderating the debate, stood there like little mannequins. They didn't challenge him once. So Joe Biden has been breathlessly able to just lie. And frankly, I don't even think Bernie Sanders challenged him hard enough on these points. In Arizona, voter turnout, including early voting and vote by mail, is on track to possibly exceed 2016 levels, according to the Secretary of State's office. It's pretty interesting. In Arizona, voter turnout, including early voting and vote by mail, is on track to possibly exceed 2016 levels. That could be a good thing for Bernie, could be a bad thing. And by the way, as more precincts come in from Illinois, Biden's lead is shrinking more. 13% reporting in Illinois. Biden's lead is now at a little over 15 points. About 10 minutes ago, it was at 20 points. So I do think the margin of victory for Joe Biden will be significantly lower in Illinois. Again, we don't know how many people have come out for these elections. Again, I use elections in air quotes. I think it's insane. It's criminal that these elections are being held. So let's start getting into that. I'll keep trying to update you as much as I can on results. But I really want to get into just the sheer social depravity, moral depravity of the Democratic Party right now. I want to remind you, 48 hours ago, I said this yesterday, but if you didn't see me yesterday, Joe Biden sends out a tweet. In fairness, most of these candidates don't tweet themselves, but this is Joe Biden's official account, so he's responsible for it. The right to vote is the most sacred American right there is. State election officials are working closely with public health officials to hold safe elections. If you are feeling healthy, not showing symptoms, and not at risk of being exposed to COVID-19, please vote on Tuesday. If you're exhibiting symptoms or might be at risk, absentee or vote by mail options are the best way to make your voice heard while protecting your neighbors. Yeah, just whose voices do you think Joe Biden really wants to be heard? You think it's 20-somethings? You think it's 30-somethings? Or do you think it's the Golden Girls crowd? No offense to our loyal viewers who might be a little up there in years, but are more progressive. Whose voice you think Joe Biden wants to be heard? So, as I described yesterday, pretty much every single thing Joe Biden put in this tweet was scientifically wrong. So there's either two options. Joe Biden is uninformed and incompetent and doesn't understand what the CDC was advising, or he just blew it off and didn't care. Because if you are feeling healthy, not showing symptoms, the CDC, as well as Donald Trump's administration, health experts in Donald Trump's administration, said, if you are feeling healthy, that does not mean you do not have coronavirus. Many people, I don't have a number because, obviously scientists and doctors and health experts are learning things on the fly. Many people are asymptomatic for days before they feel anything. You don't believe? If they feel anything. You don't believe me? Here's President Trump's point person, or one of his point people, on coronavirus yesterday.
If you are sick, no matter who you are, please stay home. If someone in your household is diagnosed with this virus, the entire household should quarantine in the house to prevent spread of the virus to others. The reason we're taking these strong and bold steps is because we know there is virus spread before you develop symptoms, and then we know that there's a large group, we don't know the precise percent yet, that actually is asymptomatic or has such mild cases that they continue to spread the virus. If your children are sick, please keep them home.
You heard it right there. Asymptomatic. Meanwhile, Joe Biden out there tweeting, go out and vote if you're feeling okay. Which, what does that do? Tells people, hey, I don't have symptoms. I'm going to go stand in a line for 3 hours. I might have it, but not know it. And I might be standing on line next to an older person who's the most susceptible to this. But wasn't just Joe Biden. His top senior advisor went on CNN, said even more than that.
Our democracy is extremely important. And even in times of strife in this country, we have to do our duty. So the CDC and folks have said it's safe out there for Tuesday. So I don't know what Senator Sanders was talking about, but I'll tell you, Governor DeWine said it was safe in Ohio. So I encourage people to get out there and vote on Tuesday. Our democracy is extremely important. And even in times of strife in this country, we have to do our duty. So the CDC and folks have said it's safe out there for Tuesday. So I don't know what Senator Sanders was talking about, but I'll tell you, Governor DeWine said it was safe in Ohio. So I encourage people to get out there and vote on Tuesday.
I mean, what can you say? And you know what was the most disgusting part of all that? You know what was the most disgusting part of all that? Obviously, her reckless lying. Did you see Chris Cuomo, the anchor? Did you see his eyes when she said that? He literally goes like this. When she says the CDC says it's safe, he goes like this. Like, Jesus, what do I do here? She just made a reckless, dangerous lie that's going to put people's lives in danger. But, we work for the Biden campaign, must not challenge. Simone Sanders is not a medical expert, right? But she's a political operative. So her going on CNN after her boss wrongly sent out disinformation and saying the CDC says it's safe, of course the CDC didn't say it's safe. At that point, the CDC was advising against gatherings of more than 50 people. Most polling places are gatherings more than 50 people. President Trump yesterday knocked that number down to more than 10 people. When she said the governor of Ohio said it's safe, no, he didn't. Several hours after you went on national television and made that reckless statement, he postponed the elections in Ohio to the point where a judge rejected him from doing so. And he said, to hell with the judge, I'm going to disobey this order out of public health. This is a Republican governor doing the right thing. To be clear, because there's some people I know, Jimmy is apparently going off on Bernie, and I go off on Bernie when I feel I have to go off on Bernie. But to be clear, Bernie Sanders did not publicly tell his voters to go out and vote. I have to check it. Somebody on Twitter was telling me, well, his campaign manager during their fireside chat insinuated that it's okay. I didn't see that, so I have to look. Bernie Sanders himself put out a tweet today. In this situation, it's a personal choice. It's a personal choice whether to vote. And he's in a damned if you do, damned if you don't decision. If he says go out and vote, obviously he doesn't think people should go out and vote. He basically made that clear during the debate when he says, I have serious concerns about people going out to vote. But if he says, if he says, I don't think people should go out and vote, oh my God, every single outlet is going to spin it like crazy. Oh, Bernie's trying to stop the bleeding. He knows Biden's going to clobber him in Florida, clobber him in Ohio, clobber him in Illinois, clobber him in Arizona. Bernie's just trying to stop the inevitable. So what do you do in that situation? It's easy for, Monday morning quarterbacks to say, well, Bernie should just have the leadership and say, postpone the elections or whatever. I don't think it's that easy. And by the way, Bernie hurt himself. Bernie hurt himself by basically saying to his voters, it's up to you. That's not a get out the vote operation. Get out the vote operations normally entail the campaigns blasting text messages to get you out to vote, emails, phone calls, getting the buses going to get people in. That's get out the vote. They were not doing those things today. Bernie Sanders did not do those things in Florida, Illinois, or Arizona. So, to me, I don't even know how you compare Joe Biden literally telling people recklessly, if you're feeling fine, go vote, which goes against the CDC's guidelines. You don't have to feel anything. You might still have it. Even if you feel fine, you might still have it and pass it off to people online with you. How you could compare Bernie Sanders to that? How you could compare Bernie Sanders to Joe Biden's campaign going on CNN being like, hey, the CDC says it's fine, even though they didn't. By the way, again, I can't confirm this. I'm just showing what somebody said on Twitter. Joe Biden is running radio ads today and telling Floridians to go vote to, quote, continue Obama's legacy. I want to be clear, I didn't hear the radio ad. I responded to that tweet. If anybody has it or heard it, record it and send it to me. So to be clear, that's not verified by me, but I wouldn't put it past him to be running ads to get out the vote in Florida, which, oh, by the way, is one of the oldest populations in the country and the most at risk. Hey, Granny, get out there and vote. Need a ventilator? Yeah, we'll try. I mean, it's just sick. The whole thing is sick. And to tell you the truth, I don't think, listen, I'm just going to be honest with you. Joe Biden looks like he's going to win the nomination at this point. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think everything the DNC is doing right now is making it even less likely that Joe Biden actually wins the presidency. Because I could see a lot of progressives looking at what is going on right now, and Tom Perez and Joe Biden and the entire establishment pushing for voting to go on while a highly contagious and deadly pandemic is going around the country and the world. That's not something you forget in 6 months. Let's move on to Mr. Perez. This was Tom Perez last night, not leading with his values. Let's put it that way.
Your view that this can be safely conducted tomorrow. Who have you been consulting to come to that view?
Well, again, we didn't intervene in that case.
No, I know. This is a state matter, but I'm asking your position as Tom Perez, the head of DNC.
Sure.
My understanding is you're saying you agree with the states that are going forward.
Yes, we respect what they're doing, and we always encourage everyone. And I was in contact today with people in a number of these states, including but not limited to Arizona, and again asking them if they believe they have the systems in place that enable them to put the elections on tomorrow, and they do. And Republican and Democratic governors have made that judgment that they can do that. I don't think it's for me to second guess those judgments, Chris, and so. I respect that. And again, the point I'm making is there's a broader issue here. And that broader issue is we ought to make it easier for people to vote.
Yeah, I'm not the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. I have no power. It's not like they'll listen to me if I tell them to postpone the elections, because the DNC doesn't run the state parties or anything. Remember, folks, we're at 500 viewers right now. Keep smashing that like button. We got 500 viewers watching. 366 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 150 of you. Press that like button. More people that press the like button, the more people that will see this very live stream. And remember, we could only grow as far as you take us. Sign up. Statuscoup.com/join. We're not traveling right now for obvious reasons, but we will be back on the road as soon as we can safely be back out on the road. We need your help to fund us. We want to get to 2,000 members, preferably by the end of this month. So let's keep going. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up for as low as an overpriced Starbucks coffee a month, $5 a month. So, first of all, Tom Perez says, I've talked to them and they have the systems in place. They have the systems in place. I just showed you a clip at the beginning of this live stream of an election judge who says, I've gotten zero communication with the Chicago Board of Elections. I don't know what to bring. I don't know if they have enough hand sanitizer. I don't know if they have sanitation to clean the voting machines. I don't know what they're going to do to ensure people are standing, quote unquote, social distancing from one another. I didn't have time to load all of it. I have gotten images all over this country on Twitter from all over the country with packed lines. Definitely people not 6 feet away from each other. And Tom Perez says, well, they tell me that, they got enough. They got enough. They have processes in place. So it'll be fine. They got processes in place. What could go wrong? Here's another one. Currently in a poorly ventilated basement of the Gage Park early vote site, the second largest Latino district in Illinois. The current wait time here is just over an hour. Folks have already started to leave, saying they aren't willing to risk their health. You would imagine seeing this in third world countries. Do those people look like they're social distancing? And again, knock on wood, I hope this doesn't happen, but it's March 17th. Let's take a look in a week from now at Arizona, Ohio, and Illinois' numbers. And how many additional cases of coronavirus do they have? Because this is going to spike that number. No doubt about it. But that wasn't all, folks. That wasn't all. In addition to Tom Perez going on national television and basically playing dumb, saying, well, I trust them. Just like we trust the party in Iowa to do, they know what they're doing in Iowa. Then it comes out. You just can't make this up. It gets more corrupt by the hour. That the DNC is basically threatening states that delay their primaries, that if you delay your primaries past June, we might strip you of delegates. And let me explain what that means. Each state gets a certain number of delegates. So California has the most number of delegates. New York is next. Texas is next. From there, it's a little foggy. I think Florida is next, but I could be wrong on that. And states want as many delegates as they can going to the convention because that represents each state's power. And I don't want to get into the weeds, but there is often, behind the scenes competition between states on who could get more delegates awarded to those states. So the DNC is threatening to strip states of their delegates if they try to protect public health. A new memo from the Democratic National Committee panel that handles delegate selection for the presidential nomination warns that states that hastily change the first determining step of their own process could be subject to penalties, including a 50% reduction in delegates if they hold primaries after a June cutoff date. The memo also says the panel is looking at ways to adjust how delegates are selected in response to the coronavirus pandemic. 3 states will hold primaries on Tuesday. A 4th, Ohio, postponed on Monday due to the coronavirus. Louisiana, Kentucky, Georgia, and Maryland have also postponed their votes. As in virtually every part of U.S. society, election officials at every level have been discussing ways to safely administer the elections. The new DNC memo obtained by The Guardian was sent to members of the Rules and Bylaws Committee on Wednesday night. Quote, "We are working with state parties that need to make adjustments as needed to their delegate selection process so they can continue without major interruptions," wrote James Roosevelt and Lorraine Miller, co-chairs of the Rules and Bylaw Committee. The regulation allows technical changes to be approved by the co-chairs. A number of states have taken dramatic steps to prevent the spreading of the coronavirus. Late on Monday night, Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine announced that his administration would order polling stations closed because of the health emergency. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how else to talk about this. This is just my opinion. How else should people view this other than Tom Perez, the DNC? Let's be clear, the governor of Illinois just endorsed Joe Biden yesterday. When governors endorse candidates, there's usually some communication between those governors and the campaigns that they're endorsing. You don't think it has no connection between the Illinois governor deciding to keep these primaries going? Chicago, one of the biggest cities in the country, with the fact that he just endorsed Joe Biden? It seems to me they're willing to straight up risk public health to just finish this primary, finish Bernie Sanders off, and, start to restore the soul of the country bumper stickers. But most importantly, get rid of Bernie Sanders. And if that wasn't enough, then the DNC came out and called on states not to postpone their primaries. DNC is asking states not to postpone their primaries amid the coronavirus pandemic, but instead to take measures to make voting more safe and remote when possible. DNC Chairman Tom Perez said in a statement that states should begin mailing ballots to all registered voters and to implement no excuse absentee voting, which allows voters to drop their ballots off at pre-approved sites. In addition, Perez said that polling places should expand their hours and days of service to reduce lines and crowds. The DNC chairman said that postponing elections, as several states have done, is not the right answer. Quote, states that have not yet held primary elections should focus on implementing the aforementioned measures to make it easier and safer for voters to exercise their constitutional rights to vote, instead of moving primaries to later in the cycle when timing around the virus remains unpredictable. I don't even know where to fucking start with this idiot. I don't know if this is idiocy or just straight up how do you say it? Sociopathy? Sociopathy. Sociopathy. I'm making it up.
No, sociopathy is not a word.
Sociopathy. First of all, Jen, can you call me? I know you're a psychology major. I want to get your input here. Give me a ring. States should begin mailing ballots to all registered voters and to implement no excuse absentee voting, which allows voters to drop their ballots off at approved sites. Is this guy living in an alternate reality? Drop ballots off at an approved site? New York City is potentially about to go on lockdown. Shelter in place. Parts of California are doing this now. There is other parts of the country. Hey there.
Hey.
let me just finish my rant for a second. There are other parts of the country that are talking about sheltering in place. How are people going to drop off their mail-in ballots at a pre-decided location if they're not allowed to leave their home? Which, by the way, Italy has been doing for the last 2.5 weeks. Why? Because they didn't do it early enough, so now they're forced to do it now. Jen, is this guy a moron or just a criminal?
I don't think he's a moron. I think he is a criminal. I mean, his actions are criminal. His actions are disgusting. They're obviously not caring of the people. You have to be a sociopath to carry something out like this, and not only to do that, but to threaten states by, trying to strip them of delegates. You have to be screwed up in the head in some way, and not a caring person, to put it mildly, to do those things. It's absolutely disgusting.
And the thing that I find so bizarre is, like, he's talking like it's just like, yeah, you could drop off your ballots at a pre-approved site. Some polling places should expand their hours and days of service to reduce lines. Like, he's talking like he thinks that it's a guarantee that polling places are going to be staying open for early voting, that people are going to be able to leave their homes to drop off their ballots, that the U.S. Postal Service will continue uninterrupted for all these mail-in ballots to be delivered. I mean, again, I don't know if this is just straight up idiocy.
It's not idiocy at all, because he knows that people showed up today, that polling volunteers showed up today, and the polling judges weren't there. There were signs, it was all over social media. There were signs taped to windows saying, sorry, the election judges didn't show up today, so call someone, I guess. Like, a lot of people didn't know what to do. And obviously people didn't show up, but even for those who did show up, there was no one there. That's something that even my 10-year-old would understand, that you can't hold a fair election, a legitimate election under these circumstances. So even if this guy isn't a sociopath, then he is, I don't want to say like he's a criminal, disgusting. Like I can't diagnose him. Obviously, I don't know his intentions.
Well, you do have a degree in psychology, so.
I do have a degree in psychology, but I am not like a doctor of psychology or anything like that. I think, as far as his motivations, we know that his motivations are to get Joe Biden elected president, or at least to get him the nomination. That is the sole focus right now. And Tom Perez knows that if he pushes through and makes that happen, then he's good to go. That is his sole goal and mission right now. He does not care about the people. He doesn't care that people showed up to empty polling places today. He doesn't care that this disenfranchises voters. If he did care, then we would have seen a different outcome in Iowa of what happened there. We know that the numbers were not reported. We know that in Texas, in Dallas County, 10% of votes in Dallas County were suddenly found. All of these anomalies, in quotes, add up to something not good. It's always not in Bernie Sanders' favor. So to push through and keep going does show the word of the day, sociopathy.
Sociopathy, that's what I thought it was.
It's sociopathy, yeah. So
I had a mild stutter as a kid, so you
and Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really hurts.
But I don't confuse my wife and sister.
Yeah, he has a little bit more going on than you do. I think as a journalist, it's one thing to report on these things, but as a person, it's so disgusting. It's so disheartening to know that there are people out there in the world who will do this, who will push forward just for this disgusting, despicable goal of getting this guy who is in clear cognitive decline to get him nominated to go up against the worst president, like the this evil, incompetent, awful president, and to put Joe Biden up in a head-to-head with him is just levels of evil that are incomprehensible. Tom Perez needs to go. Tom Perez needs to, he won't resign unless he's forced to by the powers that be. But we know the powers that be are happy with the job that he's doing right now. They love that he's a sociopath and doesn't have a heart for the people at all. Bernie Sanders is currently the only one visible in this Democratic sphere. Obviously, he's an independent, but he is right now one of the top Democratic figures in the country, one of the most well-known. He's the only one who does have a heart. I was actually surprised. I thought he would come out and say, please don't vote. I agree with you completely that he was in a really lose-lose situation in this case. It was really up to the DNC to say, no, we're not going to hold these elections right now. These primaries can wait. People's health is the most important. If Donald Trump can come out, not to be Dana Bash, who got bashed for saying that Donald Trump was like presidential with his calling for not a UBI, but calling for money, to give people money and stuff like that. I'm not praising Donald Trump, but I'm saying if even he can say that 10 people shouldn't be in a room together, then what is the DNC doing? What is Tom Perez doing? We can only look to the fact that this is evil. This is not okay. This is not a move for the people. The DNC is not for the people. I believe that they need to be sued. And I don't want to
interrupt you, but I just want to advance this forward because,
sure.
Shocker, the new narrative. Rachel Maddow just said, Bernie Sanders could be endangering public health by contesting upcoming primaries. Quote,
oh my God.
It will be his decision that forces these very difficult public health decisions in all of these states in terms of whether or not to go ahead with these primaries. So after Joe Biden, Simone Sanders, Tom Perez actually endangered public health by urging people, including old people in Florida, to go out and vote, now it's Bernie Sanders by continuing to, engage in democracy, challenge. He's not mathematically eliminated yet. Bernie is the one that is endangering public health by if he chooses to stay in the race.
Yeah, so for these people, it's not a matter of principle. It's a matter of bashing Bernie. They'll do anything they can to bash Bernie, even if Bernie's not the one in the wrong. They twist it. They make you. It is manufacturing consent. It's Orwell's 1984. It's those silly teenage dystopian novels where they tell you you've always been at war with whatever the country was. What is that? The Divergent novels or something like that. But that's exactly what they're doing.
Couldn't agree more. And before I let you go, Carl Knight, $10 in the super chat. How can Jen juggle being a mother and the president of Status Coup at the same time?
That's a great question, Carl. I think the answer is that I have such wonderful and amazing children, and they're both boys. One is almost 10 and the other one is 12, and they're just the most incredible boys. But they're also at an age where, I couldn't have traveled like I do right now at younger ages. So I worked from home when they were real young. So that was a challenge and a struggle, but I did it during their nap times and this and that. And then once I started school, things got a lot easier. But they're such cool, smart, chill kids, and that's how. It's obviously a struggle to balance home life, work life, but I work at it.
All right, keep the updates coming. Thank you.
I will. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. So, not surprisingly, the establishment narrative now, Bernie Sanders is murdering people if he doesn't drop out. I guess it's fitting that this is the route they would go. I'm sure that's going to be what you hear on Morning Joe tomorrow, what you hear hour after hour on CNN. I'm sure we'll get a couple, who's the word? Maybe David Brooks, who will be Thomas Friedman, one of those elitist schmucks will say Bernie the Corona killer. I'm telling you, it's coming. And then we will hear older people, some of whom I know in my life, that will be reciting this message. Bernie's endangering public health. Meanwhile, Joe Biden literally told people, you're fine, go out and vote. Right at what could be the height of this. And I got news for you folks. I'm not telling you what to do at all. I'm not going to tell people who to vote for. It's just not my place to do that. I think what the DNC and Joe Biden is doing right now is not gonna help middle class Joe. Not gonna help middle class Joe come November when he needs Bernie Sanders supporters to put him over the edge. Or neither will this.
The younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. The younger generation now tells me how tough things are. Give me a break. No. I have no empathy for it. Give me a break. Because here's the deal, guys. We decided we were going to change the world, and we did. We did. We finished the civil rights movement to the first stage. The women's movement came into being. So my message is, get involved. There's no place to hide. You can go out and you can make all the money in the world, but you can't build a wall high enough to keep the pollution out. You can't live where you're you can't not be diminished when your sister can't marry the man or woman or the woman she loves. You can't, when you have a good friend being profiled, you can't escape this stuff. And so there's an old expression my philosophy professor would always use from Plato. The penalty good people pay for not being involved in politics is being governed by people worse than themselves.
Yep. Joe Biden, I have no empathy. I think that, listen, the bottom line is, I don't think tonight's elections are really legitimate. I think Joe Biden was going to win in Florida no matter what. It was likely he was going to win in Illinois no matter what. The results in Illinois right now are 43% of precincts reporting. Biden is up 48-58, so 21 points. So Bernie's going to lose. He already lost Florida by a lot. Looks like he's going to lose Illinois. Again, we just don't know at all what the actual turnout numbers are. I expect those numbers are going to be significantly lower than 2016. Jen, let me know. I thought Arizona, the polls already closed, so I'm assuming if we're not really seeing any results out of Arizona yet, still says no numbers from Arizona, so we'll see. There is a pretty significant Latino population. But you want to know something? I think that this is what the establishment wanted. This is what, obviously Obama and the establishment didn't know, coronavirus was coming this way when they cleared the deck of the Titanic of Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar and rallied the troops around Joe. But they couldn't have scripted it any better. They got cleared the deck for Joe, and the results are what the results are. And it's just in a real double-edged sword. In Florida, that just voted for Joe Biden again. Voted for Joe Biden. Medicare for all, 57%. 57% of the people who voted in Florida favored Medicare for all. Every single state on the issues is voting for what Bernie Sanders stands for, but they're voting for Joe Biden because they have been programmed to think that's the only way they could beat Trump. And meanwhile, Trump is already showing you his strategy against Biden. This was a tweet. This was Trump today. Trump suggests Biden should apologize for his WHO claim. Fact checkers have indeed found Biden's claim to be false. what he's talking about. Joe Biden said the World Health Organization offered the coronavirus testing kits that they have available and to give it to us now. The Trump administration refused them. We did not want to buy them. Well, PolitiFact, which often gets it wrong, says Biden falsely said the Trump administration rejected these test kits that were never offered. White House never offered to sell the WHO never offered to sell test kits to the United States. The CDC opted to develop its own coronavirus tests and did not use the WHO's protocols for the test. Other developed countries with advanced research capabilities developed their own tests. Why do those other countries have advanced research capabilities? I don't know. Could it have something to do with the fact that they have their own universal healthcare system? Could that have anything to do with that? But what I have been warning, what other progressives have been warning, Donald Trump's oxygen as a politician is if you give him an opponent that he could muddy the waters. Donald Trump, not that Hillary Clinton didn't have corruption problems, but Donald Trump canceled out his own corruption, canceled out his own lies by just saying Clinton Foundation, Hillary's emails. Can't trust her. You think Donald Trump, the Republican National Committee, and over $200 million they have in the bank, you don't think they're going to go after Joe Biden on lying about his arrest in apartheid South Africa? You don't think they're going to go after Joe Biden for lying about being on the front lines, participating in civil rights sit-ins? You don't think they're going to go after Joe Biden for plagiarizing in the 1980s when he ran for president? You don't think they're going to go after Joe Biden for lying about his Iraq war vote? You don't think they're going to go after Joe Biden, who just lied on the debate stage that he didn't help write the bankruptcy bill? Yes, he did. I mean, they're going to just demolish Joe Biden. And you know what? You know why that's effective? Because when voters are given two uninspiring choices, because Joe Biden is not an inspiring choice to most independent voters, if they're given two uninspiring choices and they're littered with ads showing Biden lying about X, Y, and Z, misrepresenting his record, lying about civil rights in front of by the way, standing in black churches. Add in, and I'm just going to be honest, I don't blame Bernie Sanders for not doing this because I think he would have been destroyed if he did this. Republican Party is going to be airing ads with Joe Biden sniffing young children's hair. I don't say this to give them ideas. They don't need my ideas. It's already ready. Wait till Creepy Joe starts becoming a phrase. Wait for the lines of Joe Biden talking about enjoying young children, rubbing his hairy legs. You couldn't gift a worse candidate, a more risky candidate than Joe Biden. I'm not saying Bernie Sanders is perfect. I don't think Bernie Sanders would easily beat Donald Trump. I think it would be close. But I don't know many segments. I don't know Bernie Sanders talking about weird things with children. I've never seen a thing with him touching young children. He's not a liar. There's not a ton of stuff out there that you could prove Bernie Sanders lied. Yeah, they would go after him on Cuba, communism, all this stuff. We know this. But Donald Trump, how you neutralize the corruption, him basically bribing the president of Ukraine, him, the Trump Foundation, the Trump Plaza in Washington, D.C. that he's renting out like a whorehouse to Saudi princes. Sorry to be graphic, but that's the truth. Trump is literally making money off of his hotel with foreign leaders of other countries. It's complete... And the Secret Service. Completely illegal, by the way. But there are no laws anymore in Washington or for powerful people. But to voters, I didn't even mention Hunter Biden and Burisma, which is going to be Hillary Clinton's emails. Same thing. which I've tried to tell all this to people in our life, and they don't want to hear it. They got Trump derangement syndrome, and they don't want to see Biden's weaknesses. All I got to say, iceberg right ahead. Colin, if you're watching, I think we need to adjust this graphic a little bit. Wonderful graphic, as always, by Colin Tooley. I think we need to start showing some water leaking. Maybe take Joe, swap out some people here. We'll toss Jim Clyburn up there. We'll toss, I don't know, Amy Klobuchar, since she's probably going to be his vice president. It's just a disaster. Just a disaster. Let's see. Jen's sending me some updates here. McHenry County outside Chicago is nearly done, and turnout is sitting at about 54% of 2016 levels. So almost half. Almost half of 2016 levels in one county. And apparently Biden is striking a somber tone on his live stream right now. Not celebrating his wins. My prayers are going out to everyone. So now I'm somber after telling you to go risk your life so I could get elected. Just unbelievable. You just can't make it up. We still don't have any results in Arizona, so, we'll see what happens with Arizona. Illinois, 50% of the results are in, and Biden is currently up by about 21 points. So before I wrap, let's just do rapid fire. Let me take your questions, comments, concerns. We could digitally cry together, scream together, whatever you want. And remember, I know a lot of people are feeling down, but Status Coup, we get up if we've been kicked down. We still need you. Statuscoup.com/join. We would love to sign up additional members this week. We're trying to get to 2,000 members, and we are right now just 141 members away from that magic 2,000 numbers. Statuscoup.com/join. You could join us for as low as $5 a month. It goes towards our real reporting, which, by the way, if you came to this late, definitely, we want to hear from you. This is for people really directly affected. We're obviously all affected by the coronavirus, but we want to hear your stories. If you have a story, if you've gotten sick from coronavirus, if family members have, friends have, if you have an economic story to tell, you've been laid off, your hours have been cut, you're being forced to go into work, like the story I read from you earlier. Nothing is too outside the box. We want to tell your story. We will contact you, most likely interview you via Skype, since, Jen and I are not superheroes. We can't travel right now. We don't want to expose ourselves either. So we'll contact you to set up a Skype interview, because super important, what happens to the bartender? You think they're getting paid sick leave? What happens to the waitress? Nancy Pelosi's bill doesn't help that waitress. They're not getting paid sick leave. Trump's coming out now saying maybe proposing $1,000 cash directly to people. It's a start. This could go on for 2-3 months. $1,000 a month, is that going to pay your rent, mortgage, student loans, car payments? I don't think so. That's why I was never a huge fan of Andrew Yang, because I don't think $1,000 a month is enough, particularly if we're in a jobless economy, which he was predicting. $1,000 a month is strong on top of other things, not on its own. So definitely email us. We already are just ravaged by emails all the time, so we can't guarantee we're going to get back to everybody, but we will definitely try to make an effort to interview you if the story fits for what we're going for. Hopefully we can inform people of things that are going on that will CNN, MSNBC, The Times, Post, all these places won't. And there you go. Shelley Thomas just said, my friend got fired from her job today. That's the kind of stuff we want to know. I mean, if your friend was comfortable, tell her to email info@statuscoup.com. We want to get those stories out there for sure. I believe Kyle Kalinske tweeted out earlier that some of his family members are experiencing symptoms. I mean, this is going to, it's like mass shootings. You know, they say people, nobody thinks it's going to happen to them until it happens to them. This is going to happen to a lot of us, frankly, including people watching right now. If you can, I know it's not an option for everybody, but if you can, definitely stay home. Definitely stay home, if you can. I know a lot of people can't. Let me read a couple questions, comments. Obviously, I'll read some super chats first, so drop it if you can. Those super chats. Look, fat, we can't afford 4 more years of you. Who you calling fat? Calling me fat? You're going to get a lot more than 4 more years of me, so I got bad news for you. Should be $3,000 a month. Bernie just came out proposing $2,000 a month. I think $3,000 to $4,000. Obviously, it could differentiate X amount for individuals, X amount for couples and families. France, 100,000 police and military in the streets to prevent any unjustified movement of citizens. Honestly, this is what we should be doing now. And I got news for you. I spoke with my brother earlier who is affected by this. Thankfully, doesn't have it yet that he knows of. Thankfully, his kids don't have it, or his wife doesn't have it that they know of. But he's right in that core initial containment zone in Westchester here in New York. That's where the National Guard went first in New York. And he's telling me if we don't have an immediate lockdown of the country now, the United States could be looking like Italy in 2 weeks, maybe sooner. And my brother's not he's not the kind of person that dramatizes things. So if he's warning of that, I take it seriously because he's a pretty smart guy. But we also have to look at this realistically. Does Donald Trump think first about public health and saving lives, or November? What is his first concern? I think we know the answer. And ironically, if he would take the most aggressive action, provide the most relief to families now, lock down the country and minimize the damage of this, probably would help him out more come the general election. Sue the DNC for all the money we all have to Bernie. I think you might see some lawsuits here based on what Tom Perez and the DNC did this week, especially the threatening states to pull their delegates if they postpone. It's insane. If the DNC wants Trump, they'll get Trump. Then in 4 years, we could vote in a progressive. In an ideal world, yes, but you know my thought. I'm very worried about this environment if Trump gets reelected. In 4 years, God knows what our planet will look like in 4 years. Why am I working tomorrow like WTF? It's an office with like 100 people. That's a good question. And you want to know something? This is me saying it. I work from home, so obviously I'm privileged in that way. I think you're going to start seeing some more sick outs. I think you're going to start seeing some more people, strength in numbers, just say, fuck it. Let them fire us all. We're not going into the office. $1,000 goes a lot further in Oklahoma than in New York City. Why wouldn't it be adjusted to a local price index? Yes, T. Dustin. The problem is $1,000 does go a lot further in Oklahoma than in New York City. But that's $1,000 on top of something. If you are a family, let's say you got 1 or 2 kids in Oklahoma, you still got your mortgage to pay. That's not going to be paused. right? You still have if you have student loans, your electric bill, car insurance, whatever, groceries. Let's say this goes on for 2 months. $1,000 is something, but that $1,000 goes very quick. I mean, how much have we been spending on groceries this week? A lot. So yeah, it could take you further than Oklahoma, but Oklahoma ain't Tijuana. So you still have bills that are going to surpass $1,000. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying that should be on top of paid sick leave. If we could just print money for endless war, tax cuts for Trump and the Democratic Party's donors, I think we could print money for this. All right, folks. Sorry I didn't go live during the day. I was working on that big story with Jen. I will be live tomorrow, so definitely tune in tomorrow. If something crazy happens the rest of the night, I'll come back live. We are still waiting for Arizona's results. As of now, I don't see any results in Arizona, and I'll have more for you tomorrow. One last plug. I know a lot of people are not in a great mood right now. Status Coup still needs you. Statuscoup.com/join. Join us for as low as a cup of coffee a month. We did our first members call of the month yesterday. Had a great time. We're going to be doing another members only video call. What is the schedule like right now? Today's the 17th. So probably, not next week, but the week after, we'll have our final call of the month with our members. And Jen and I will come up with some creative behind the scenes videos for you too. While everybody, well, not everybody, while some of you are at home. Thank you for tuning in late night. Sorry that the results aren't better. Like I said, I think these elections are total bullshit. I think they're illegitimate, but we fight on another day. Have a good night.